All right. So I feel like today is really the first day we're really going to get into the authentication flow. So very meaty lecture ahead. So let's get into it, right? What is authentication, or even before we really define authentication, on a site like YouTube? Why do we need authentication? What does authentication do for us? Farhan?
Authentication allows for someone to create their own portfolio of sorts, or their own logins and credentials, so that whenever they go into something, the website will know it's them at initial point.
Yeah. So the server, so when we're building the server, and on the front end too, when they send us a request, we know who they are. But on a site like YouTube, why do we need to know who they are? What specific activities can a client do where we want to know who they are, Farhan?
Well, they would post their own content. So they would.
Exactly, right there. So uploading a video, we want to track on YouTube who uploaded a video, right? What other activities?
Commenting, liking.
Commenting, yeah. Again, when you write a comment, YouTube needs to know who wrote that comment. Um, so, with that being said, that's almost every website we use. Authentication is very important, right? Is it actually? I'll throw it to you guys. Is there a website that you use routinely? I can actually think of one where you don't need authentication. Opens the class.
Wikipedia.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Can you even? I'm sure you can sign in actually to Wikipedia because there's features where you contribute and stuff. But I never have actually. Does anyone contribute to Wikipedia? Yeah, it's kind of the complexity there. Like if we were to try to build Wikipedia, that would be such a challenging project. Way beyond Reddit, in my opinion. So, with all that being said, can someone define authentication, in particular, defining it in contrast to authorization? What do you think there, Lin J? So we have these two terms. What's the daylight between them?
Um, well, one's giving permission, right? And one's allowing you to do what you need with it.
Yeah. I would say authorization you just described, like permission to. Um, so authorization, yeah, permission is a great word. Permission to do the thing you are asking to do. So that's good for authorization. But then we have authentication, right? So how is authentication different? Maureen, any ideas? How is authentication different than authorization?
Authentication, yeah, it's like identifying if that's the real user.
Yeah, I always say you are who you say you are.
Yes.
So this authentication is the server. We'll talk in the language of we're building a server, right? So from the viewpoint of a server. So when a client sends us a request on the server, we know who they are. So this might be like if you want to make a new post for our Reddit server, we need to know who you are. On our Reddit server, what would be an example of authorization though? Do you have permission to do the thing you're asking to do? Semsi, what would be an example of an activity that somebody requests that they might not? We know who they are, but they might not have the permission to do what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but I think in order to post, sometimes people need points or some some sort of permission.
That could absolutely be true, but not for our Reddit server. For our Reddit server, it's enough that we know who you are and anyone can post. But for our Reddit server, what activity might a user request that they're not allowed to do, even if we know who they are?
They're not allowed to delete somebody else's post.
There you go.
Maybe?
Yeah, exactly right. So they're not allowed to delete someone else's post. And this is going to be important for, it's a requirement for the Reddit server you're building, right? So you're going to have to build that in. It's not just automatic. That doesn't happen automatically. You got to build that. So authentication, very important. Authentication versus authorization, a very popular interview question. So with that being said, how are we going to build authentication? We're building it from scratch, right? There's hardly, I couldn't find a single YouTube video. Did anyone find Next.js auth from scratch? So hopefully we might be the first, right? I couldn't find one. But it brings up some great topics, and that's why we're doing it from scratch. Where are we, though? Where's our... Okay, here we are. So the first thing we're going to work on authentication is a user trying to register, right? So from the client, they have to send a request to the server. We made this particular endpoint, users register. And they have to give the server their username and password. Once the server receives this request, they need to do all these steps. And really the end goal is that there's, I can actually show you. Nope. I can actually show you. The end goal is that on the client's computer, on the client's browser, there is a stored cookie, right? And we'll be able to see it right here. A lot of cookies right now, but no cookies right now in our application, right? But our end goal is to have a cookie here with a token. So we are going to work through all these different steps, right? And then we already built the form that the client can use to send this request to the server. So let's take a look at that. So where are we at? We're not in the backend, we're in the front end, and we're on register page, right? So /register, remember from yesterday, our routing, this will cause this page to be rendered. And yeah, we have the ability to collect the username and the password from the client. So max123. That's great, but what am I... Wait, where's... I pulled up the wrong Reddit. Don't look at that. That's cheating, right? That's the one I actually built. So Reddit clone is what we want. There we go. Here we go. So what we're doing right now is just console.logging the username and the password. But what do we want to do right here? Like, what's the next few steps we should attempt to do? Sadiq?
I'm not feeling well, Max. Depending on someone.
Okay. Vanessa? Where do we go from here? So we grabbed the username and password. Where do we send that?
To the database.
We're on the client right now because we're using a client the word just flew out of my brain. We're on the client side, right? We're using a client component. So we can't directly send requests to the database. So where do we have to send the request to? Ritu?
We have to send it to the server, the backend.
Yeah, send a request to the server. And Ritu, what's the endpoint going to be? From our diagram, what did we say we want the endpoint to be?
The endpoint would be register, users and register.
API users register. And from the front end, how do we send requests to the server? Ritu.
Fetch call.
We use fetch. So what would be the argument for this fetch call?
So it would be the API / users register.
That's exactly right. And if we just use a / it will know to hit the domain of wherever this application is currently being hosted or run from. So right now it'll be localhost 3000. But when you hit Netlify or Vercel, it'll be verceltheta.app / API users register. So here, this is going to be, I'll write out our normal language for this. It's a promise, so we need to await it. I got to convert this to async. We have to convert the response from JSON to an object, and then I'll console.log the info. What do you predict will be in the console.log right now, though, before we've done anything? Calypso?
Right now it's just gonna show the username and password, but it's not gonna have anything. But the API is not built, so I think it's gonna be like an error maybe.
Yeah. It's gonna be the 404, right? Not found. So I'll send this. Oh, I gotta run this again. Yeah. Max 123. So 404 not found, right? So right now I just want the server to respond with just like an object or a JSON with an object that says we'll register in a second. How can I get the server to respond? Because right now it's not responding at all, or it's saying not found. Pimpa, any ideas how I can get the server to respond to this request at API users register?
We create a new folder.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So here in app, what folder do I want to create?
API.
Very nice, yeah. And then inside API? Users, yep. And then in users?
Register.
Very nice, yeah. And then what's the special file name to know that we're doing a backend API route? For Next.js. Yeah, route.js. Okay, very nice. Keep on going with it, right? I want the server to respond to this request saying we'll get right on it or anything, right? Mehdi, any ideas there? How can we scaffold out this endpoint to send a response?
I actually don't know for this one, no.
Okay. Ellery?
Hi. Okay. Sorry, let me just quickly. Sorry, now you caught me off guard a bit.
Okay. Yeah, we want the
Sorry.
server to respond to a request at API users register. So we created those files. We created route.js. But what goes in here? What type of file or what type of code or what data type? Catherine?
Export a sync function post.
Yeah, very nice. Yes. So the method, the HTTP verb for registering is going to be a post. Yep, that's the agreed upon method.
And in the parentheses, put a request, I think.
Yeah, here I'm going to return the next response is what we use in the JSON method, and I'll just say hi for right now. Doesn't matter. Okay, I send this request again. And, oh, I got 4 or 5 method not allowed. So why did I get method not allowed? Going back to our front end code, what do we have to do here? By default, this method is what, and how do we change it? Izzy?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, no worries. David, the default is what, and how do we change it?
So the default is get, and so we're gonna have to add a method that says post.
Very nice. Yeah. So I send this, I save this, I send this request again, and we got our response of hi, right? But we have way more work to do than that. So let's take a look at what we said we want to do. The end goal, remember, is a cookie to exist in the client here. Right now, ooh, there is a cookie. There shouldn't be, right? Let me delete that. That shouldn't exist. Yeah, that's probably from preparing for lecture or something. So right now, there's no cookies, right? But the end goal is for there to be a cookie. So let's actually, these two are, I want to come back to, right? Let's create the user in the database. But before we need to do that, how can I console.log the username and password from the body of the request, right? That's a little sub goal we want to do. So I want to see max and 1, 2, 3 right here. How can I pull up that information, extract that information? Daniel?
You could do a request response inside of your parentheses, I think.
Yep. Parameters, yeah.
Yeah, parameters, sorry. And then you could do const in curly braces, put username, comma, password, and I think is equal to request.json. I can't remember which one it was off the top of my head.
Yeah, very nice. And this is a promise, so we'll wait it. And then we can try console.logging username and password.
And then to send it full, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. Yeah, we got an error, so let's check out that. Unexpected end of JSON input. What did we do wrong? Yeah, what is my bug? Any guesses?
Have we sent it over from the front end? Did we have it set up so that it sends it?
Very good question. Let's check that out, right? What do you think? Have we?
No, I think we need to include it in the body, right?
Yeah. So what do I put for the body here, Daniel?
You put username and password inside a curly bracket.
Okay, if I did that, we have problems, right? So we still have this error. So it's saying, I've actually never seen this error before. Object is not valid JSON. So we're sending an object, but what do we need to send as the body? What data type?
Application JSON somewhere.
Yeah,
A
JSON.
string? Oh,
Yeah, so we need to convert this. Yeah, I think you said the word string, Calypso, stringify. All right, we send this again, and it works. We got max 1, 2, 3. Okay, so our objective is still to create this user. How do we create the user? Zubida? Oh, we have a lot of work. I'm remembering.
Can we use an array like having user ID?
The ID will be generated by Prisma and Neon.
Hello?
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah, we're here. Are you having mic problems? We'll circle back. Victor, any ideas? How can we send a request to our database to create a user?
Hello?
I'm going to mute you, Zubida, for a second. You guys can hear me, right? We're good? Cool.
Yeah.
Oh.
I can't really think off the top of my head right now.
How do we ever send a request to the database?
So I'm just drawing a blank.
Yeah,
right
no
now.
worries.
Hello?
Zubida, we can hear you. I'm going to mute you again, though. Farhan, how can we? Yeah.
We kind of need to create the database first too, right?
Yeah. We haven't even created a database, but we would have used Prisma dot, right? But that doesn't exist yet because we haven't done all that. So how do we create a database, Farhan?
We can use Neon Tech, I guess.
Yeah, we can use Neon Tech as long as we didn't use all our allowance, right? Hopefully. So I'll log in here. I'll go to a project. I'll try to just, I can just use a lecture, right? That might be fine. I'll just use a lecture, honestly. And what do I want to do? Here, I want to go to
Postgres.
Prisma. Yeah, but now I'm realizing I have no place to paste this into. So in my terminal, what do I want to do, Farhan?
Prisma, npm Prisma init, or is it npm?
Yeah, and that's going to create what file?
The schema and all
Exactly
that?
right. Yeah, beautiful. I've been talking for a while. Any questions so far?
Is it fine that we didn't send a header from the front end?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Usually you probably should, but Next.js, their server is somehow decoding it for us. So if you know you're building front end and back end in Next.js, I guess you can omit it. Although you probably should throw it in. What Farhan is talking about is we should give a heads up to the server that the content type is going to be application/JSON. And this, in an Express app, this won't work without this. But Next.js, it somehow is working, right? Okay, so taking a look at the schema, I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to copy my .env files. I'm going to paste them into here. And then I'm remembering, I don't know. I wonder if anyone has an answer, let me know. I do not know why Next.js does not include .env as normal in their git ignore, but you definitely want to include it. Okay. And then after that, what do we need to do to get our database going? Specifically with being able to create a user. What do we need to do? Linjay?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Yeah, in this schema, we're eventually going to want to create users. So what do we have to tell the database in the schema?
We got to make a model user.
Yeah. And what are some fields we need in here, Linjay?
So we need the ID with the string and the ID at default UUID.
Yeah, very nice. What's something else we need, Maureen? Another property.
We need a name.
We need a username. Yep. And what data type is that?
A string.
And any decorators?
It's unique.
Yeah, I think so. What else, Semsi?
password.
Yeah. Okay, so I've written changes here. Do they automatically exist in Neon? So what do we have to do,
So
Semsi?
you have to migrate
Yeah.
first.
So let's try to migrate this over. Hopefully there's not too many. I probably should have just created a new one, huh? Might be a headache.
So Max,
Yes.
with Neon, do we have one project allowance only, but several databases?
Yeah, I think you can create a bunch of databases, so we're good. Your project can just be like Hackmyhead or anything. It doesn't matter. Okay, that worked, but I want to verify that worked. What tool can I use to visualize my database? Vanessa?
You can run npm, is it Prisma Studio?
Yeah.
And
So let's take a look at here. And yeah, we have nothing, just a users table that's empty, right? So that was a little detour. Going back to our objective of trying to get a user registered, right? So, we have more work to do, I'm realizing. So in my source folder, I'm going to create a lib folder and a file called prisma.js. And I'm going to import, is it Prisma client? Yeah, I guess. And then I'm going to say export const Prisma equals new Prisma client. Can anyone give me a heads up if that's incorrect?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, cool. Okay, now I think we're in a good place to proceed, right? So how can I create the user? Ritu?
So we could say const user and then await and then Prisma create because or do we need to find them first? I don't know.
Well, first I'll import it and then I press dot and let's look at our options and does anything look good to you?
User.
Yeah. And then I press dot and does anything look good to you?
You can say create.
Yep. And then we can look at their example. So what do you think, Ritu? How can I create this?
So we could do the curly braces and then ID.
Look at their example.
Username?
No, follow their example exactly. So create an object with a property of what?
I was looking at the wrong thing.
Oh.
Data.
Yeah, data, which is an object. And then in here, we need what?
We would need, is it username?
Mm-hmm.
And then password?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's just respond. Well, what's a good response, Ritu?
Could we do username and password?
Let's follow the exact format of like our docs, right? So what's the pattern we've been using?
So we would do success and then true, and then we would say user.
Yeah. Okay, let's hit this. What is this right here? What is happening? Oh, there we go. Okay, let's hit this request, right? So I'll click refresh. And I'll do max 1, 2, 3. So we're hitting this and we expect the database to create this user. Let's check it out. I click register and I got success true and the user information. Great. Great or not great? What do we like this response or not like this response? Putting on maybe our security hats today.
Don't like it.
Don't like it. Why?
We see the password.
Yeah, so what should we do?
Encrypt it? Hash it?
No. It's not that serious. Well, okay, there's a few things going on. But first off, the response to the client shouldn't include the password at all. They have no need for the password. So how do we just get rid of the password from the response?
Is there a way to exclude, like how you include stuff?
Yeah, I think so. But there's a manual way to do it very easily. But there's also probably a Prisma way to do it, which I don't know off the top of my head. Does anyone know the easy JavaScript way to just get rid of it?
Do we delete line 12? But
we can just delete what?
Sorry.
User dot password. Yeah. It's kind of the low tech way to do this, right? So I click register. Since we have unique, we're going to get an error, right? And our server crashed. So to prevent that, what should we do?
We can do a try catch.
Yeah, let's wrap this all in a try catch. So if there's an error generated, the catch will be invoked. And success false. And we can just pass on the error message. Okay, that's fine. So let's do max 2, right? And I click register now, success true user, and no password is sent to the client, which is nice, right? But now the other security concern we have is that we have what's called a plain text password, right? So, why are plain text passwords bad? Opens the class. Why are plain text passwords bad?
Well, if you get hacked, people can just see all the passwords.
Sir, databases are hacked all the time. And then your client's passwords are exposed. Yep. Why else are they bad?
You can brute force it.
You can brute force it. What does that have to do with the plain text password?
That's true.
Yeah, why specifically plain text password bad? So if there were no hacks ever, if hacks weren't possible, why would it still be a bad idea?
They're easy to guess. Like if someone's just trying to guess passwords, probably.
Yeah, but we still could do some ugly password and that would be considered plain text. It could have a million symbols and everything, but it's still plain text because it's just the password.
Is it about the token?
No, this is just about why having the password.
No, I mean, is it also because there's no token attached to it? Because, like a cookie, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually a cookie would save our information, so it's not, I don't know, it's in open.
Yeah, possibly. But like, I'm just talking about sitting in the database, the fact that this is 1, 2, 3 and not hashed, which we're going to talk about eventually. Why is that bad? So this is the example I always give. Is that, you don't have to answer, but is anyone dating anyone who's a developer or an ex that's a developer? And would you trust them with all your passwords for every website? So just from people shouldn't be trusted with other people's passwords. Absent, a hack, just the employees themselves. It's too much, I don't know, power or trust or whatever, right? So these are the reason. Oh, and then the reason, like, people reuse the same password. So if they have access to, our Reddit clone, that's fine. But then they go to Schwab Bank and they have access to that as well. So these are probably just some of the reasons that plain text passwords are bad. And then one of my favorite sites that I show all students, it's called Plain Text Offenders. Can anyone guess what this is going to be?
It's going to show like websites that do that.
Yeah.
Plain text.
Yeah. Here's developers who stored plain text passwords in their sites. So here it's blocked off, but you can imagine the username is like Max and then the password is 1, 2, 3. And how do we know that Shodan screwed up? Why are they being shamed? How do we know that they're storing plain text passwords?
Is it because it sent the password in the email?
Yeah,
Like
ideally, the own company, Facebook itself or Shodan itself, should not even have access to your password. That's the crazy, cool feature of hashing passwords. The company themselves shouldn't have access to the password, but they do because they included it naked in this email. Yeah, email password. I doubt there's any huge companies because this is a big no-no. So we know why they're bad, right? Any questions on that? The security risk of plain text passwords? So what's the solution, right? To plain text passwords? We want to hash our passwords before saving them. What is hashing? So I know you guys had this on pre-work, right? So what is hashing? Calypso? Yeah.
Yeah, it like encrypts the password using the header and a secret key.
So I'm going to say not encryption.
Well, it like jumbles it up, like it makes like a new string.
Transforms
by a dot.
Text into text that is completely unrecognizable with the following rules. What are some of the rules about hash functions? So it takes text and garbles it up and it looks totally unrecognizable, but there's a certain predictability about hash functions. What are some of what makes a hash function, basically?
A header, the payload, and then the secret key.
Nope, you're talking about JWTs.
Oh, just kidding.
Yep. Let's visualize this first off. So we have 1, 2, 3, right? My password. Or probably the most famous password in the world is password, right? And then let's use hash online. Let's use MD5. And let's use password, right? To generate this. So this is what it looks like. Oops. but there's certain rules about hashing. The first, Farhan.
Oh, I was just gonna say you can't have the password inside it, I guess, like shown.
So we're talking about taking text and transforming it via a function, but what are the rules of that function? That's what we're talking about right now.
No two inputs can be the same.
Yeah, so we have no collisions. So if an input is different than another input, they will never have the same output. So it's always going to be a unique output for a unique input. Yep, that's a big rule.
Password, then it would technically show up the same twice, right?
If somebody had the password and someone else had the password?
Yeah.
Yeah, right now in the mental model, it would result in the same. But we'll talk about the solution to that in a second. I'm going to use the fancy word deterministic, right? What do I mean by that? The same input will always produce the same output. No randomness. I think we call this mathematically pure function, a pure function. Yeah. And there's one thing else. No collisions, deterministic. Oh, probably the most important thing about it. Well, they're all important. We have another major feature of hash functions.
Isn't the size? The size of the hash?
Yeah, usually by custom, it's a fixed size. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. We can even make that a rule, fixed size. Yep. I'm going to say one way. What do I mean by this?
You can't reverse it.
Yeah, you can't go backwards. So I can't take 5F4 and get password. So this is not encryption, right? But not to pick on Calypso. I've heard instructors make this mistake all the time, calling this encryption. It's not, right? It's in the same like family of ideas maybe, but it's not encryption, because encryption you can go backwards, right? That's the whole idea. Encrypt something, you decrypt it. So how is this useful? How is the idea of hashing useful for us? So instead of, let's say the user's password is password, right? Or let's just say it's like password 123, and this is the hash right here. Why is this? And we store this in the database. Gets stored in the database, and the plain text password never gets stored in the database. How is this useful for us as developers?
We can match the output with whatever they inputted through the hash method.
Yeah. So they go to log in again, max password 123. I don't have password 123 in my database, but I have what?
The hash.
I have the hash. So I rehash this. And because of the rules of hashing, it always produces the same output. So then I compare the two and I know. So on every request to log in, the user sends us the naked password, and then we hash it and compare what's in our database.
Hey, Max,
yeah.
Didn't you say there was like some website where people basically log hashes, like popular passwords, and then they log the hashes for those passwords so you can actually reverse it?
Yeah. It's called Rainbow Tables, I believe. But before I pull this up, though, here it is. So, top 100 passwords. So here's the problem, right? People have the password 123456, many people. And if we hash it, that produces the same hash, right? So if a database gets exposed and we see a certain hash that we know is 123456, then we know the person's password, right? So this is called a rainbow attack. And this is possible because people use the same passwords. But we have something to prevent this. So we can prevent rainbow attacks by salting our hashes. And salting our hashes is adding some random text to the plain text before hashing it. That way, even if me and Farhan both want the password 123456, the hashing function will add some randomness to both of ours so that they produce a unique hash to prevent the rainbow attack. The tools we're going to use, Bcrypt, will do all this for us. We don't have to really think about it. But I do want you to have a general mental model of what's going on. The salting might be a bridge too far. If it is, just forget that part. But the idea of hashing, I want you to understand. What questions do you have, though? These are some big topics. Okay. So with that being said, instead of storing the user's password as plain text, we're going to use a library called Bcrypt to hash the password for us, right? So here, I'm going to do hashed password equals, let's import Bcrypt from Bcrypt. And can I see what methods are available? So here I'm going to do hash. I'm going to use that method. Actually, let me just import it as Bcrypt. That's fine. So I'm going to do bcrypt.hash. And this actually returns a promise. So I'm going to await it. And then what do I need to provide to this method, right? It says I need the data, which is a string. So the data I want to hash is what? What's the data I want to hash? Pimpa? Or Linjay? Yeah. Password, exactly. And then how many times do I want to run the hashing algorithm? The default we can use is 10. But this is basically, if somebody's going to try to brute force this, how computationally intensive do you want this to be? Just use 10 is fine. And then we can console, or actually instead of hash password here, we should set password to be what in the database?
Hashed password.
Yeah. So now let me save that. And let me run our server again. And let me try to log in again. I'll get the error that they're already logged in, right? Success false. I'll do max 3 and I'll click register. I'll click it again. Success true, user. That's fine. And then in Prisma Studio, let's take a look, right? So now we have the hash password right here. So that's way better than the plain text password for all the security reasons we talked about. Let's take a look. Yeah, any questions?
Can you explain the running the algorithm 10 times? Like, why would I want to run it 10 times?
Because if a bad actor has your hash, right, this string, they can run every word that exists in the English language and every just text that exists until, with the same hashing algorithm, until they hit your hash, and then theoretically they can know what your password is. But by salting it, you're making that process exponentially more intensive for them to do. So the number of rounds is, you're not just hashing it and you're not just salting it, you're taking the result of that and running it again through the function. And how many times you want to do that is how intensive you're going to make the bad actor work to get your password. So it'll take, a normal computer probably like a year. I'm just guessing, this is meaningless, but maybe a year if you have 10 rounds. Whereas if you had 12 rounds, it might take them 100 years of computing time, right?
Is there a industry like standard how many times this should be done for like security purposes?
Well, right now it's 10, but as computers improve, I'm sure that'll increase. Yeah. Because this process takes our computer a certain amount of time. We might be able to see that, right?
So is this considered slow hashing then?
Slow hashing. I'm not sure. I haven't heard that before.
Oh, in the pre-work they talked about slow hashing and how it like takes more time to like decrypt it.
Yeah, this is definitely intensive with salting and rounds for the purpose of making that bad actor work hard. Basically, you're never going to prevent a brute force attack. You're just going to make it infeasible because it would take too much time. Okay, let's try to run this request again. Next 4. So here I'm just trying to measure the time it takes. So click register and we got 47 milliseconds. But if I make this 14 and register max 5. Oh, look at that. Yeah. Way more, right? 690 milliseconds now. This is relatively quick for us, right? Because we're just hashing our text once. They have to hash the text. The bad actor has to hash trillions and trillions, right? How many combinations of strings are there up to 10 characters for a password, right? It's like you're talking about like atoms in the universe kind of numbers. So, yeah.
So if a user is trying to recover their password, like let's say they forgot, nobody can do that for them. They have to just.
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah. I would be very curious to know this. Has anyone ever tried to recover a password and Facebook is like, here's your old password? No, right? You're just given the option to create another password. But you are sometimes prevented from, they'll say you've used this password in the past. And how do they know that?
Because the hash is the same.
Yeah, because they'll just hash the password again. Yeah, very good, guys. Okay. So that's hashing, right? So where are we with our chart? Now, now we have a whole nother big concept, right? Where maybe we just went an hour pretty heavy, right? Maybe we'll start up tomorrow with JWTs, right? Let's do that. Yeah. Let's pause there because we're right at an hour anyway, or 5 minutes till. So we're not even done with registering, right? That's how heavy this topic is. But if you do want to kind of move ahead, you already have all this code that we're talking about. I already sent you all this code. So if you do want to kind of use the code and then work on other things, you can possibly, or maybe try to do more front end stuff. Yeah. Or just kind of, it's going to be a slow day until tomorrow. Any questions on that though?
So Bcrypt by itself, when we use it, is
Bcrypt, yeah.
We don't need to. Oh, Bcrypt, sorry.
Bcrypt, yeah.
Bcrypt, yes.
What about it?
It's salting by itself. We don't need to, it's salting the password, then hashing by itself.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. All you're going to do with Bcrypt is hash the password and another function called compare, where the user tries to log in and they tell you if that's a good password or not, according to the hash that's in the database. And that's all you do. And all this magic happens behind the scenes.
Hey, Max, when it comes to hashing, is there a specific method of hashing that should be avoided? Like, I remember talking about that before.
Yeah, like MD5 is no longer good. It's changing all the time as technology improves and, hackers hack. Yeah, it's constantly changing. But Bcrypt will change with the times and they'll update their algorithm if they need to.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what they use. What algo does Bcrypt use? Blowfish. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. So that's what they currently use. Yeah. And presumably it's still good, but they become old and invalid all the time.
Okay, so well, at least here's another question. If they become old and invalid all the time, if you have your database, should you be updating all of your users' passwords to the latest and greatest hash? Like how would you do that?
So no, I doubt you change everybody's hash but commonly with companies, they'll be like, hey, you need to update your password. It's been like X amount of time. So if there was somehow news tomorrow that Blowfish is no longer secure because it got hacked, I don't even know the mechanism to speak professionally about that process, how that happens. But anyway, if they determine that it's no longer valid, that algorithm, or no longer secure, I bet as a company you would just have people update their passwords. It wouldn't be like a freak out. The password is still hashed. The database hasn't been breached, but you would probably have people update their passwords. That's my guess. And then you could easily just throw in a new algorithm. I mean, Bcrypt probably, if you just installed the newest, I'm sure they would update. Okay, I'm going to do rooms, but if there's last minute questions, you can yell them out.
So you said when you said that you gave us all the code, you're talking about just the code for the lecture code, right?
No, you have complete user authentication code. So everything we're going to cover in the next this whole week probably you have already. So you can use that and try to understand it or use it and just proceed on with the assignment. But
you passed the GitHub already. It's further down.
Oh, did I pass it? Sorry.
Yeah,
it's right here.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I haven't.
But you certainly don't have to use this, but yeah. Okay, rooms are open.